Hi everybody, it's Deborah from PeopleLovingAnimals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching my video today. Today's video is called Walking Dogs in Cold Weather. Don't Make Your Dog Suffer. In today's video, we're going to go over 5 tips for safely walking a dog in the winter. We're going to talk some about the dangers of frigid temperatures for dogs in the winter. And I'm also going to give you some information for guidelines, specifically regarding what temperatures are too cold for dogs. And I'm also going to have a lot of extra resources for you on this topic. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get started with today's video. We are on my website, PeopleLovingAnimals.com. I do several videos a month all about the care and health and training of dogs and cats. So if you would like to receive continuous help with your pet, please go ahead and subscribe, and please give this video a like if you do find it to be helpful. We are going to use this article on my website called Walking Dogs in Cold Weather just to kind of guide us through today's video. I am going to give you a link to this article in the description box, and I will give you links to everything we're going to talk about in the description box. Now, for those of us who live in a cold climate, walking our dog in the winter can be kind of tricky because obviously your dog needs to go out in the winter. And obviously they still need exercise even if it's cold outside, but it can also be quite dangerous for dogs to be out in cold temperatures. So let's talk about some tips for walking a dog in winter safely. First of all, does your dog need a coat? You might be surprised about this. I'm going to give you a link to a video, Do Dogs Need Coats in the Winter? I'm also going to give you a link to a printable list of which dog breeds need a coat. That list gives you a list of dogs who need a coat and a list of dogs who don't. The thing that determines whether a dog needs a coat or not is that certain breeds have an extra layer of fur. It's kind of like an insulating layer of fur under their regular fur. These are the dogs that don't necessarily need a coat in the winter. But you would be surprised. Most dogs don't have that. Most breeds do not have that. Okay, so please don't just take your dog out and say, oh, he was born with a fur coat. No, short-haired dogs, elderly dogs, you will be surprised at some of the breeds that do not have that extra insulating coat. So please get the information and make a wise decision about whether or not your dog should have a coat. And there's other factors involved too. We're going to get into that during this video. I am going to give you a link to find a nice selection of dog coats on Amazon. When you're getting a coat for your dog for the winter, get a waterproof coat and get one that covers their chest and their abdomen. The second tip is to protect their paws. Exposure to the cold, ice, and snow for long periods of time can not only be uncomfortable for your dog's paws, but it can cause frostbite, and it can also cause damage to their pads. You can use winter boots on your dog. I'm going to give you a link to those. You can also apply a paw protectant wax. I don't know if you knew that existed. I'll give you a link. You can also consider using a paw-safe salt to melt ice on your driveway and your sidewalks. Again, I don't know if you knew that existed. The salt that is typically used to melt ice on driveways and sidewalks can be damaging to the dog's paws and also toxic if they're licking it off their paws. They do make a salt that is safe for pets' paws, so I'm going to give you a link to that. And you might want to wipe your dog's paws when he comes inside with dog paw wipes. Some people use baby wipes. They also do actually make wipes that are specific for cleaning a dog's paws. And again, you're going to want to wipe off their paws if they're out in the park or wherever they get salt on their paws, if they have the wax that you put on their paws. Also, if you have a small dog, you might want to also wipe their bellies. Now, I had my little dog, Taz. She's here in the picture in her little winter coat, and I had her in a onesie. I bought onesies for her. If you don't know what a onesie is, it's those little t-shirts for babies that snap in the crotch. I put a onesie, and in this picture, she's wearing one under this winter coat to kind of give her an extra layer of protection from the salt and the ice and the snow when we went for walks, because her little belly was so close to the ground, and it also was an extra layer of warmth for the dog. So I'm going to give you a link to onesies on Amazon. You can get them for smaller dogs. If you have a larger dog whose belly is closer to the ground, or just for some extra warmth, put a t-shirt on the dog. Just get a child's t-shirt, men's t-shirt, you know, depending on the size of your dog, and put a t-shirt under their coat. And specifically, if you have a dog whose belly is rubbing on the ground, you can just put that t-shirt in the wash, and, you know, it keeps their belly protected from all of that. Also, remember that dogs' nose, toes, tips of their ears, and also the tip of their tail can also get very cold in the winter time. The third tip is to use a different leash in the winter time. During colder months, you're more likely to run into ice and slippery surfaces while you're walking your dog. You want to put your dog on a harness instead of a leash, and I recommend that all the time anyway, because if you have a collar, a harness instead of a collar, that's always pulling on the dog's neck, and that can cause collapsed trachea in dogs over the years. And you also have more control of your dog when you have a harness, and a harness is more comfortable for the dog than a collar. So just in general, I recommend a harness. You can use the link I'm giving you to see where they are on Amazon. Also, in the winter time, you don't want to use a retractable leash because you don't want your dog going too far from you. And the reason I'm talking about these two things is in the winter time, there can be ice patches, there can be slippery spots. That same wiener dog, Taz, she went out in the backyard, slipped on the ice one winter, and it cost me $1,000. She injured her back. By the time I took her to the vet, they gave her, they x-rayed her, they gave her pain relievers, they gave her muscle relaxers. The poor dog suffered for more than almost 2 weeks. And it was just a really bad thing. Now, if I wouldn't have just let her out in the backyard in the middle of winter, if I would have put her on the leash and went out with her, she wouldn't have walked out onto that icy spot, and she wouldn't have had this injury, right? So I'm saying get them on a harness, keep them on a shorter leash in the winter. Also, you got to make sure that your dog doesn't run off and then, you know, be stuck outside and it's too cold, and you want to make sure that your dog is not going to come across, say, a frozen pond, and they're going to get way out on the pond and the ice breaks. I'm just saying, these are things that happen, okay? The fifth tip is to make sure your dog isn't getting cold, regardless of whether your dog has a fur coat, you know, whether he always loves snow. You know, just pay attention to symptoms that your dog might be getting cold. These can include shaking, lifting their paws, whining. If they keep trying to head back home, that's also a symptom that they're getting cold. I do have a video called When Is It Too Cold for Dogs, and a video called How to Tell If Your Dog is Too Cold that goes into more detail on that. So again, I hope that you'll take advantage of all these resources and additional information that I'm giving you on this topic. Now, how cold is too cold for dogs? I'm going to suggest an article called Cold Temperature Guidelines for Dogs from Pet MD. I'll give you the link to it. It goes into more specifics about what temperatures are too cold for dogs, and it goes into more detail about the various factors that are involved, not just whether they have a fur coat, but, you know, a lot of it depends on your dog's age, their breed, whether they have any medical issues, if they're very old, if they're very young. You know, there's a lot of factors involved. So I suggest you read that article to educate yourself more. But as a general rule, most dogs are okay outside if it's 45 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. If it's falling below 45 degrees, some dogs, short-haired dogs, elderly dogs, they're going to start to get uncomfortable. If it's 32 degrees below, that's when you need to start paying attention. That's when you need to make wise decisions about whether or not it's too cold for your dog. And no dog should be left outside for any longer than to do a quick poop or pee if it's 20 degrees or less. And again, if you have a great big, you know, husky and they've got this great big, you know, fur, okay, fine. They're going to do better in the cold than most dogs. But if it's 20 degrees or less, their nose, the tip of their ears, the tip of their tail, and their paws are going to be subject to frostbite. Okay, so please just, if it's 20 degrees below, just keep the dog inside. All right, let them out to pee and that's it. Now, make no mistake, dogs exposed to cold temperatures can be at risk for frostbite, for hypothermia, which can be fatal, and damage to their ears, their toes, their paws, and their tails, not to mention how terribly uncomfortable it is for a dog whose dog owner is being irresponsible and the poor dog is suffering. Now, like I say, I live in Western New York. Right now, today, it's 11 degrees outside. One day last week, it was 5 degrees outside. and I see people regularly walking their dogs long distances in this weather. You know, it's one of the reasons I made the video today, because it really does break my heart to see these dogs suffer. Now, even if you don't live in this cold a climate, again, if it's 32 degrees or less, you need to be paying attention. And if it's 20 degrees or less, you shouldn't be out walking your dog. Take them out to pee and that's it, okay? Now, I am going to give you an article by Pet MD that goes into specific details about frostbite and hypothermia for dogs. So again, please go ahead and take advantage of all these resources and information. A couple of things before we go. I donate to animal charities. I do peoplelovinganimals.com as my job, and I donate 10% of all of the commissions I earn on the website and also this YouTube channel to animal charities. So for that reason, I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and share this YouTube channel and my website with your friends and family who have a dog or a cat. I do several videos a month all about the care, health, and training of dogs and cats. I'm asking you please to pass this particular video along. If you live in a cold climate and you have friends and family who have dogs, please go ahead and share this information. People need to know about this. And you know, some dog owners are just being irresponsible, and some dog owners, they just really don't realize. Okay, so I'm asking you, please go ahead and share this particular video. I hope this has been helpful. If so, please give it a like. Please go ahead and subscribe. And I hope I have helped. My name is Deborah, and my website is peoplelovinganimals.com. Thanks again. Bye-bye.